Yeah, there's like multiple affiliates all trying to do the same thing. So like you end up with, like 20 different people, 20 different ad accounts all bidding for the same keyword with the same website.
So welcome to another episode of the Paid Search MIC podcast. Very excited to be joined by Andy Cooney, who is co-founder of Marcode, a tech solution based in the UK. Marcode help brands combat affiliate fraud in paid search, and we're going to chat a lot about that, learn about what that is. But yeah, Andy, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Shame I'm not in New York to join you, but good to be welcomed onto the podcast.
Yeah, we'll get you over here soon. The weather getting slightly better. It's been pretty cold for the last few weeks, but it's finally looking a bit more like spring. But yeah, so before we dive into it, I want to chat a little bit around what it's been like to found a sort of tech startup and scale that in the last couple of years. Obviously, we were colleagues at Crowd. You were commercial director there for quite a while. Set up Marcode in March 23, I think. So you're coming in on years. How many people are you now, and what's it been like the last couple of years growing that business?
Yeah, so we're 4 people now, hiring our 5th, and then we use sort of various freelancers, contractors as well to pick up some of the work. It's been good generally. So the way I'd describe it is sort of every 3 months you have 10 weeks of enjoying yourself a lot, lots of sort of self-doubt and worries in there, and then a couple of weeks every 3 months of like absolutely existential dread where you feel like everything's going to completely collapse around you. So getting through those means it's generally enjoyable. I like it because I sort of enjoy being in control of my own destiny more or less. So we're still a very small company, so I have to do a lot of things and make sure that they work. It's been like, what am I trying to think about? There's loads of advice that you read out there, and there's a lot of like bad advice from people who haven't been through the journey before. We were fortunate in that we are part of Tiny Seed, which is an accelerator they invest in to us through a B2B SaaS specialist accelerator. And that's given us like a community of different founders that we talk to and work with and mentors and things like that, which has been sort of super helpful and helped our development and, how we've grown, and they give us, super advice from the big to the super tactical. So that's been a really helpful thing. And really there was a couple of things that I was always like, I don't really want to do anything related to marketing because I've worked in marketing agencies for so long, and I sort of avoided that. But it's an area that I sort of knew inside out. So that's been helpful because I was able to use some of my contacts to get early work, and to grow. Our first customers came directly from my contacts, and then also that was something that was super helpful. And then the other big thing is there's 2 of us, so I do all of the sort of talking to people, commercial, customer side of things, and Alec does all of the tech and the product, and that's been really good as well. And because we've got very complementary skill sets, so we're not really anything alike. So he's been just purely focused on building the product, improving the product all the time. I've been purely focused on sort of sales and customers, and that's meant it sort of worked relatively well. I don't know how you would do it if you're a solo founder. Like that's one of my main learnings. Is it seems sort of way harder, but yeah. So overall, it's been good. We've been growing really well. We've had like the right dose of luck and timing. So yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think the advice around starting a company and getting a co-founder and having complementary skills, that makes total sense. You see that quite a lot.
Yeah, like some of the people that we work with in Tiny Seed, especially non-technical founders, you have to spend loads of money on dev agencies who aren't sort of fully committed, that you don't really know what they're doing. So I think that's super hard. And I think the other bit of advice I would give myself, because I've been looking at different ideas, and Alec and I tried loads of ideas, is you don't need to like reinvent the world. So I'd sort of reinvent the wheel. Like I'd sort of try and come up with these ideas that were super revolutionary and super new and all encompassing. Whereas actually our first version of the product was very focused on what is quite a big problem, but it's fairly narrow in its execution as it was then for sure. But it was a problem that people had, and that we could show that we had a solution to. So even though it seemed, it wasn't simple, but it seemed like a relatively simple sort of narrow problem, that's the place the folks start. Because if we'd built what we thought everyone would want, like we would have this really flashy, probably ad intelligence product that no one actually paid for or wanted to use. So the other thing I would say is start on like a problem that you can see people have or people tell you that they have, find what they're willing to pay for, and then just keep layering on other things that they want to pay for.
Yeah. That was great advice. It makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of people, they probably either fail or just don't start because they're trying to solve 100 problems or trying to build this all-encompassing thing, whereas just solve one problem, like a minimum viable product that just does that one simple thing, and then just find one person to pay for it. And then
that's exactly it. That's exactly what we did, and that I was not doing when I was coming up with things in the past. I thought, it has to be something that solves all these problems at once. But just it wasn't realistic to do that. So that's what I would say to anyone: is probably find a co-founder or try and find a co-founder and focus on a narrow problem. Ideally, in a sort of place where you've got a network, and then it becomes a lot easier.
That's awesome. We could definitely chat about that. For the problem you ended up solving was affiliate fraud. So before we get into that, just talk a bit about what is affiliate fraud.
So affiliate fraud is a big area that encompasses many different things. But what we are solving for currently is affiliate fraud in paid search. And really it ranges from the quite complex and completely against terms of service fraudulent to the sort of people skirting the rules of what they should be doing. So I'll start with the sort of completely fraudulent, which is the main thing that we start talking to customers about, which is something we call it affiliate hijacking. I think that's sort of isn't that well defined in the industry, but that's what most people know it as. And this is something that I had so affiliate hijacking is when someone is impersonating a brand in paid search and running ads that against branded terms that look like the brand. And then when a user clicks on it, they end up on the brand's website and they have their affiliate details added to them, so that the person who's run those ads claims a commission, and that commission offsets the cost of the ads. So they're basically doing arbitrage, trying to find cheap, high converting clicks and high enough commission to offset the costs of those clicks. Now, when I was, I worked at Crowdview, one of the biggest paid search agencies in Europe. I had no idea that this was a thing. Alec and I had this idea of, Google's taking away insights. We should provide people more insights. One of the ways we could do that was by scraping Google. Started scraping Google and just started seeing all of these ads being run by advertisers who weren't the brands themselves. So that, we didn't know it was a thing. That was how we discovered it was a thing. And this is a super widespread thing. So the sort of conditions that make people get targeted are, if you're a brand who's got an active affiliate program that pays relatively generous commissions, low enough brand CPCs, so it wouldn't happen typically on a price comparison website for insurance, because the CPCs are so expensive because everyone bids on each other's brands. So relatively low brand CPCs, so lots of fashion, travel, telecoms, utilities, things like that, and a decent enough conversion rate and AOV. So you can have a high conversion rate, low AOV, or vice versa, or both of those happen. So those types of brands, if you fall into those categories, you're almost certainly being targeted by it. So we've got a list of maybe 5,000 different brands who we know are being targeted, that we have a data set which collects on those. So super widespread problems that is impacting all of these brands and completely screwing with their search campaigns, costing them money through commission. That's the most nefarious end of it. Within that, you get really sophisticated actors. So the people doing it use lots of different technology techniques to basically try and remain hidden and to spoof who is sending the traffic. So earlier on today, I was looking at a client, and hijacker had been running these branded ads. Sort of worth noting, Google will only serve one ad per domain. So if I'm serving an ad for prettylittlething.com, and the real ad is also serving that for prettylittlething.com as it would be, Google will only serve one of them. So if you win the auction, your ad doesn't show. So the client I was working with earlier, the person was running ads that looked like them. Then to the clicks, they were sending it for a chain of redirects, which were trying to identify like tools like us so that it would send them to a blank version of the website so they wouldn't get caught. And then it was adding a social profile. So Weibo in China, it was adding those links into it. So it made the traffic look like it had come from there. So the brand was thinking, oh, I'm getting loads of traffic from these Weibo influencers and that's where the sales are coming from. But it was really just branded search. So that's the sort of super nefarious end of it. In the middle, you've got like fake voucher code sites who bid on voucher code terms, and you just click, like the codes are either leaked or made up, and you click anywhere on the website, you get cookied. And then you have like people skirting the rules, so people brand bidding shouldn't be. So legit voucher code sites, like publishers who shouldn't be. It's in the terms of service they shouldn't brand bid, but they do brand bid. So that's the sort of spectrum of affiliate fraud in paid search.
Got it. Yeah, that all makes sense. Lots of interesting things in there. I think the first thing I actually mentioned was the fact that you kind of stumbled across it, like just scraping Google, and you're like, oh my God, this is a problem. So that's super interesting. But it's fascinating to hear like the level of complexity involved. And that just suggests there's like a lot of money in it for these affiliates to be able to do this.
But absolutely, like big business, like the client I was talking about, it was over $1 million in sales that had been driven through this affiliate over the peak period. It's a very big advertiser, but they're making 6% off that. It's like a huge amount of money over a couple of months.
Yeah, which then means that they are heavily incentivized to find ways to get around the system, which is kind of, I don't want to say fun, but it's certainly interesting from if you're on the other side trying to combat that, because you're always trying to be one step ahead of them and find these tech solutions. Kind of like a fun challenge, even though it's very annoying.
Alec, my co-founder, we'll be on a demo, and so I find this stuff really interesting or really fun, because that's what he enjoys. Is they're trying to catch us looking for them, we're trying to stay ahead of them. So it's like a sort of constant battle.
That's cool. How easy is it to go to clients and say, this is happening on your brand, here's a tool that's going to help you? It seems like an easy sell, but like
it should be way easier than it is. We should be 100 people by now. So there's like different levels of it. So sometimes the first thing is just, if a brand is completely unaware of it, which a lot of big brands still don't know that this is happening, especially paid search practitioners. Like affiliate teams are more aware that it's a thing, but paid search practitioners in particular, I find often don't know this is happening. But first is like disbelief. Like, how can someone run ads that, say that they're me? Like, surely Google doesn't let that happen. So there's sort of disbelief at the start. Then, like, the next thing is, whose responsibility is it ultimately to sort this out? Because it impacts paid search. Like, it's inflating CPCs. It's reporting affiliate revenue, which should have been paid search. But they're not the ones. The way to do it is you have to get the affiliate details and remove the affiliates, which is the job of the affiliate team. But the funny thing is, it makes the affiliate team's numbers look better, because they've got all this revenue being driven through paid search, through brand paid search, so super, high converting revenue. So like, the people who actually use it will go to them, and if we cut out, if they're getting 10% of their numbers for it, 10% is just gone, and they're getting in trouble. So it falls into this gap of like, who is it actually that should be doing it, and who needs to sort this out. So I'd say that, like, it's not hard too much to get people to listen and care. It's then working out who actually does stuff that becomes a bit more difficult.
Yeah, there's some like issues with people working in silos and team having data and targets, and
that's it. It's big company problems. Everyone works in silos. Everyone's measured on revenue. That, like, it isn't like that. doesn't talk to one another. Yeah, all those things.
Yeah. I'm wondering how that would actually appear. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but how that would appear in auction insights. So let's say on my side, managing clients, we're looking at brand auction insights. I wonder what domain would come up in those lists, if at all.
It doesn't come up at all. So because it's your own domain, it just doesn't appear in there. So people won't notice for auction insights. Where we do get people noticing from paid search perspective, they might see their CPC suddenly go up or their performance drop. So if there's like a big bout of hijacking, they might just suddenly brands not performing as well, and there's no reason for it. And that's how they sort of start to notice. But even then, they don't know. They just know that suddenly something's happened. If they happen to know that, affiliates might be an issue, so some agencies, for example, like Crowd, will say, we've got some challenges on brand here. Can you take a look? And we take a look and say, yeah, there's some affiliates who have started hijacking.
Yeah. That's interesting. So from our side, really, it could go completely under the radar unless you have a tool like yours.
Yeah, it's the thing that people will maybe notice is either that, and if they then know that affiliate hijacking is a thing, they might come to us and get us to check, or the ads. So these companies, they're running like hijacking thousands of brands at a time, so they don't have time to do good ad copy. So sometimes someone will come to us because they've searched and they've said, this isn't one of our ads, but it is one of their ads. The ad copy is bad, whatever. They click on it, they end up with an affiliate link, and then they look into it and realize it's a problem. But yeah, otherwise, just flies so under the radar unless you're looking at your own ads or like you notice something else. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I imagine the really, really big brands where they're maybe more aware of it. I'm sure there are ways to like get around, like do on Bing, which
yeah. Happens on Bing all the time. Yeah. Or like, one of our customers, they were just running ads from Friday evening till Sunday so that no one would actually see them when they were in the office, like all classic old tricks, or working out where the office is and then just targeting it away from the office or in other markets and things like that.
That's so smart.
The people doing it are incredibly smart. Like, they've sort of built these systems and, they're doing really clever stuff and really sophisticated stuff, but yeah, just for bad.
Yeah, big game of cat and mouse. Yeah, that's really interesting. I guess just from like a quantifying the impact. I mean, we've talked about the fact that you've got the issue with like siloed teams and people having targets and numbers might protect that. But I guess once you find the right person who maybe is overseeing that wider team, and you can be like, right, okay, what are you spending on brand? What are you giving to affiliates? I imagine it's then relatively easy to quantify and be like, well, if you did this, you would cut out this much spend.
Yeah, exactly. So we can extract the affiliate details for doing it. They can then say, okay, we've paid out this much commission to them over this time period. Like, it might not all be fraudulent. Like, it might all be fraudulent. Sometimes brands will look at the data, like, if they're a customer, they'll say, okay, we've identified all of these ads with all of these different parameters in them, and so we're cancelling all those transactions, and that can be like a really, really substantial amount if they've got a bad problem. Then what we can also do is, because we track the ads, we can see when the ads are stopping, and then we can tie that back then to search performance. So within Marcode, we might say, 5% of your core brand term has been hijacked. But obviously that's 5% of the searches that we've seen. So it might not be 5%, or it does line up. But then what happens is we stop that, and then you can just see search. So I was talking to one of our clients the other day who's new. Search just goes, through the roof if it's been a particularly bad problem, because what was being reported as affiliates is now being reported as search, and then consequently CPCs drop as well. So we've seen people's brand performance like double basically if they've got like a really bad problem. And then I think the most we've seen CPCs went up by 6x when there was a bad bit of hijacking as well. So yeah, so we can correlate to the search performance, and then we can directly say this is the commission that you paid out, and actually stop paying that commission as well.
Yep. Yeah, that's super impactful. 6x increase is pretty crazy from like one affiliate, or I guess it could be a number of affiliates.
Yeah, there's like multiple affiliates all trying to do the same thing. So like you end up with, like 20 different 20 different ad accounts all bidding for the same keyword with the same website.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah. And then just in terms of like the mechanics of like how clients can like work with you and then set up, what does that look like? Is it pretty straightforward?
Yeah, it's super straightforward. So we're collecting all our own data from Google and Bing. So, before client has even spoken to us, it's probably likely that at some point we've like ran them through Marcode and looked at what's happening with them. So they can come to us, we can tell them what's going on based on our own data. There's no connection needed, etc., anything like that. And then once we do work together, so like if anyone wants to have a look or has concerns, I can sort of run checks for that. Once we do work together, we do a couple of API connections just to make the data richer and easier to use. So with the affiliate API, and some other data sometimes, and then that's it basically. Like it's sort of super simple. We're just telling you what we're seeing in the ads, which is all our own data.
Yeah, got it. Okay, nice. That's awesome. I feel like I've learned a lot about affiliate fraud. I am going to send you a list of clients.
We can look at it and go, I mean, it's honestly crazy. Like it blows my mind that this is happening so much, and seemingly has been. Like I was involved in a conversation on LinkedIn yesterday where someone said, I remember this being discussed 10 years ago. Like the voucher code stuff has been around as long as ever, all these fake voucher code sites, but seemingly it isn't going away. And don't know, I think maybe affiliates themselves, when I worked in a Crowd or other agencies, we never really did affiliates, and affiliates was a very separate sort of channel. And I think that lack of cross knowledge sharing has just meant it's stayed contained within that channel until someone decided to say, yeah, crazy world that it's all still going on.
Yeah, that's mad. It's still happening. Well, thank you for fighting the good fight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.